turn to Psalm 121. Psalm 121. And when you get there, someone could read for me 1 through to 6.
I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will not slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by the day, nor the moon by night.
Okay. Read verse 4 for emphasis again for me, please.
Indeed, he who watches over Israel will not slumber nor sleep.
Okay. So all of us have a God who doesn't slumber. He's not fatigued by being awake. Doesn't the physical life or the physical strain doesn't affect him, or I said God, supreme being, in any way. And so this morning we're going to be discussing and having a conversation. It's saying, he who keeps Israel neither slumber nor sleep. And this lesson, we look on the historical context, why this was said, some practical application for us today, and its relevancy in our daily lives. We'll also draw parallels between the struggles of God's people in the Old Testament and our struggle today. And let us look at the historical context in Psalm 121, in one of the Psalms of Ascent, which were sung by the Israelites as they made their way to Jerusalem for religious festivals. These psalms were filled with expression of trust and confidence in God's protection and care, especially as they journey through potential dangerous terrain and uncertain times. The Psalms of Ascent reflected the hope, faith, and reliance on God's faithfulness. In Psalm 121, in particular, focuses on God's watchful care over his people. The reference to he that keepeth Israel points to the enduring, vigilant care of God over the nation of Israel, both spiritually and physically. The image of God, neither slumbering nor sleeping, emphasizes his constant attention to his people, as opposed to the limitations of human leaders and rulers who require rest. I don't know, in the Guinness Book of World Record, somebody went for how many days? I don't know, he went for, a week without sleep. He was trying to break some record. So in the ancient world, people often had to journey through difficult and dangerous terrain to reach secret sites. And these psalms would have been especially meaningful for travelers on their way to Jerusalem, reminding them that God was their ever-present protector, even when they could not see him. So we are fortunate in a modern society, in a civilization where we have, I don't even know, 100 years, in the 1920s, there were no GPS system. I mean, up to 96s, right? Maybe 70s. I don't know. But to navigate America was quite challenging, isn't it? Huh? Brother Bob, how did you find the places when you were driving?
You what now?
When you were driving back then, I don't know, when there were no GPS, the signs weren't as sophisticated, especially for delivery trucks. I mean, how do you find unique communities?
Road atlas.
What was that?
Atlas or a map.
Oh, a map? Okay.
Okay. Paper map.
Paper map.
You look out and you got to go on a trip and you
Oh, okay.
drew your line and highlighted.
Okay. How accurate was that?
We got the AAA sent in your thing and called them and they'd send you a detailed map, directions and turns.
Okay.
Your gas station had a little rack where you could get a map.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Local areas.
So go 20 years from that, without that, without a map. Back in the, what do you call it, cowboy, I don't know if it was a general thing or whatever. Western Union is a horseback riding thing from one town, I don't know, major town to the next.
You got a big road on the right and turn.
Yeah, gotta be right. There you go. There you go. Okay, so we have come a long way in it from this. This is way back. So they have to contend with animals, vicious animals. You know, walking those paths. They had to contend with burglars. I'm using the word burglar. I shouldn't be using the word burglars. Thieves, robbers. Yeah. I was going to say pirates. I'm talking about the West Indies. Yeah. You know. So you understand what I'm saying? They didn't have this kind of sophistication that we had. You know. Even when we talk about the person washing the feet, you need to understand the historical setting of why a person was placed at the entrance of a banquet or a person who could afford a slave to do that, and when he or she invites guests, the purpose of the person washing their feet, because most of the times they were wearing sandals, and they had to be journeying on foot, because to own a donkey back then, you had to be wealthy. To own a horse, you know, a cow, you were a wealthy person. To be riding on an animal. So most of the times, even though, you know, your neighbor, you're invited, you have to be walking in a sandals, and you're walking where these animals walk with droppings on the road, and the roads are not well paved, you know, unless you go into the city. You maybe see some stone roads, or you know, but most of the roads are dirt roads. So your foot is actually dusty, you know, and here the psalmist is saying, hey, God doesn't slumber nor he doesn't sleep. It was quite an ordeal to travel those distances on those roads, because you couldn't encounter any form of danger. In today's world, this verse reminds us of God's unwavering faithfulness and his constant vigilance over his people. It speaks to the fact that unlike human leaders or authorities who might fail or need rest, God's care is constant and never ceases. We are reminded that no matter what difficulties or challenges we face, God is always awake and aware of our needs. So when life feels overwhelming, when it seems as though no one is watching over us, or when we face challenges that feels insurmountable, we can take comfort in the truth. God does not slumber nor sleep. He's always watching over us, offering his protection and guidance and comfort. So can you imagine God slumber instead? Well, if we are commanded that we should pray without ceasing, meaning whenever you want to pray, you get up in the morning, you're praying to a God who doesn't slumber, he doesn't sleep. 24 hours, 44, 8, 24/7, he's there. You get up, you sleep, you get away, you're in the night, you walk, you're not having a peaceful rest. 2 o'clock in the morning, you want to approach God, he's there to have a listening ear. He's always watching over us, offering his protection, guidance, and comfort. Any questions? Any comment? So one of the things that we often wrestle with is trusting in God's protection. When facing personal struggles, challenges in relationships, or financial hardship, we must remember that God is always attentive. We don't have to bear our burdens alone because God is actively working on our behalf. What does that look like, or what am I saying? Think of a parent who watches over their child even while they sleep. The parent is always alert, listening for any sound or need, especially a mother. Likewise, God is aware of our needs, even when we don't recognize it. And we have some mothers in the building. How you guys do it? I need to hear from you guys how you do it when you're nurturing. Has it been too long? Has it been long? But no, I need your input. How do you sleep? God doesn't slumber nor sleep, but my mom is always there. She's there. There's some discomfort.
So I do find that we sleep less solidly, like when the grandkids are there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I can sleep through anything when they're not there.
Yeah.
One can roll over.
Yeah. There you go.
And
No.
it's just like you don't realize it, but you're on that.
And so I'm going to pick your brain. Why? Why do you sleep less? Why? What is in you?
Concern, love.
Yeah, concern.
Yeah.
Love. That nurturing spirit. That you don't want anything to happen. Why? Because they can't take care of themselves. So think about God, but God is much more, He's much more than us because we are humans. So the same way you care about your grandkids and you care about your children, God is always there, ready to listen. What is wrong? Why are you up 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, so early in the morning? He's listening. Find peace in God's constant vigilance. Our tendency is to become anxious or fearful when we cannot see or feel God's presence. Psalms 121 reminds us that we can rest knowing that God is working even when we are not aware of it. The church, this bride that God made, has given me assurance. So even though I am in a foreign land, using myself as an example, I know that the church is here, that they love me, they care about me. So it makes me more sober-minded. It makes me more what? Peaceful. You understand what I'm saying? God is the same way. He is the same way. I can call him right around, and he's there. He's there to listen to me. He's concerned. He's nurturing. And so I said, well, I have siblings. I said, boy, I have some wonderful church family. Why? God is in them. God is working through them to help me to journey on this earth. So, Isaiah chapter 40, 28 and 31. It says, hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. You know, we become weary, don't we? Yes, I have become weary at times. Eh? But he said, have you not heard? How did I want to say that? He doesn't become what? Weary. In other words, you can't really navigate. Or where he reach a point where he's exhausted. Grandchildren do exhaust you when you pop. They wear you out, isn't huh? But God doesn't become weary. In Matthew chapter 11, 28 through to 30, Matthew 11, 28 through to 30, he said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I have been carrying some stuff at times because, as I said, sometimes we relapse or maybe we go back in our human form. And this has happened more than one time, and I just pour it out to God, and I just feel light. You know, I feel at ease because I give it to whom? To God. I give that. He said, all who are what? Who are heavy laden. Eh? All ye that labor and are heavy laden. He said, come. And that is why this passage of scripture in 1 Peter, Brother Tom, 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse, is it 7 or 8? I think it's 7. 1 Peter chapter 5, 7.
Casting all your care upon him, he cares for you.
That's it. Yeah. All right? So, you know, Peter was he was what was his profession? Peter was
Fisherman.
fisherman. So he's now using this terminology of all, you know, fishermen, they cast their what? Their net. And when you cast your net in the deep, you just gotta have faith. You know? Cast your net, trusting that the net is going to what? Catch some fish. And he's saying you need to cast your what? Your cares on whom? Trusting in Jesus, trusting in God that he's going to what? Make it happen for you. Make it happen. Live with hope and confidence. This is one of the things that often elude us, no matter how faith in mature or how old you have been in the faith. You'll be so surprised, can become so anxious and go back thinking that, why God, why can't I do this? Hope and trust. Live with hope and confidence. The assurance that God is never asleep means that we can live with hope and confidence. The struggles of the world are temporary, and God's provision and protection are eternal. His faithfulness never slumbers. A child may fall asleep on a long journey, but the parents will remain vigilant, ensuring safety and comfort throughout. Similarly, even in times of spiritual or emotional sleep, God continues to watch over us and guide us. You know, sometimes I say, God, I don't know why you bother with me. Am I being realistic? Can I relate? Yeah, I said, why? Because sometimes we just stop trusting Him. You know, when the storms blow a little, you know, get a little rough. You know, we want to rely on our own strength and our abilities to navigate. Huh? Yeah. And so, but He's still there. He's still understanding. You know, the Bible says, Brother Rose, can you read for me Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14. Hebrews chapter 4. God understands. Christ understands. You know, we're going to read from verse 14 through to 16. We have a God that understands why He understands. This is why He understands.
Since then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses.
Don't think for one moment, church, that God can't sympathize. He's going to tell you why He can't sympathize. Go on, read on.
But one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin.
Yeah. He came on this earth, and everything that is attributed to the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, Jesus Christ experienced it. And because He experienced it, He's able to stand before the great judge and represent us and say, I was there. I understand whatever this person is going through. I was there. I was able to feel. And I encountered. And I saw and I witnessed firsthand what he or she is going through. Are you lost? Do you understand what I'm saying? I want you to understand what I'm saying from this scripture. Psalms 121, 1 and 2. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. The opening verses of the Psalm set the tone for the entire passage. The psalmist acknowledges that true help comes from the Lord, the creator of everything. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our struggles. In Psalms 121, 5 through to 6, the Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand, and the sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. God's protection extends throughout all aspects of life, from the daily challenges symbolized by the sun to the more subtle hidden threats symbolized by the moon. Psalms 34 and 15 through to 18. Psalms chapter 34, 15 through to 18. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. The face of the Lord is against them that do evil, to cut off the remnants of them from the earth. The righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and deliver them out of all kinds of their troubles. This passage reinforces the idea that God's attention is always on his people, and he hears their cries for help, delivering them from troubles. In Romans chapter 8, 31 to 32, what shall we say then to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? This New Testament verse reminds us that God is not only vigilant in his protection, but is also fully committed to providing for his people, as evidenced in the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus. So I want to encourage us this morning, and those who may watch us on the internet, that we have a God who cares. We have a God who is there. And I want to encourage all of you. So when you find yourself in a very worrying and mental position in your life, sometimes your significant other is in the hospital not doing too well. I want you to understand, or maybe your children or grandchildren, that you can find peace wherever you are. Wherever you are, you can find what? Peace of mind. Now, this was going on, and I'm going to tell you some personal stuff. My daughter is not here, and for the first 2 years being here, it was very hard for me. It was very hard for me mentally, being away from her. Because, sometimes as nurturing parents and caring parents, when you are at a distance, when you are not, close to your kids or your significant other, you're wondering, because you're not in control. You want to be in control. You want to nurture and care physically and be there, and circumstances allows you to be away. So this is the time where you said, Lord, I'm asking you to take control. I'm asking you to help in this regard. And trust in that manner. Any question, any comment?
You were talking about sleeping. Used to, I didn't have a bit of problem going to sleep or sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And about 6 months ago, it turned right the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem going to sleep and then getting up real early, 4 to 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried sleeping pills and that didn't help.
Your mind was just constantly racing, and you have a lot of things on your mind. Disrupt your whole equilibrium, and have your pattern of rest. And it happens to me. I find myself that, I don't know, maybe something different works for you, but I find myself that I go to YouTube and I put on some gospel music. And it helps. It helps. Some music that soothes my soul, that comforts me. And it helps a whole lot. But you gotta find something. Sometimes I go and I let the Bible read to me. I go to a passage of any verse or appealing book, a book that has great substance in it. And sometimes I select somebody that has a good voice too, that helps, and it's just reading to me. And sometimes I fall asleep and it's still reading. So see if you can find something that comforts you, and it doesn't have to be a scriptural thing or something. There are other things that people listen to, and it puts them to sleep.
Well, son, he put the Bible on my phone that it don't seem like I have time to sit down and listen to it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Whatever works for you, Bob. But as I said, engaging that God is able to take care and handle this part of your life. It's a critical part of comfort and confidence that we do not constantly live in fear or live in anxiety. So what does this mean for us today? As modern day believers, we face many of the same struggles as the people of God did in the Old Testament. We live in a world full of uncertainty, danger, and distress. Whether we are dealing with personal trials, societal unrest, or spiritual challenges, we often feel like we are on our own. Psalm 121 verse 4 offers us a profound promise. God is always watching over us. He will not neglect us, and He will never fall asleep on the job. In moments of anxiety, let us remember that God, who never slumbers nor sleeps, is actively working on our behalf. His care and protection are constant, and He's always ready to intervene. Like the ancient Israelites, we can trust in God's eternal vigilance, knowing that He watches over every step of our journey. So as we conclude this lesson, take a moment to reflect on the areas of your life where you need to trust God's vigilance. As there are situations where we feel alone or abandoned, remember that God does not slumber or sleep. He's watching, protecting, and guiding, and let this truth encourage you as you face whatever challenges lie ahead. I know my Bible class, you can ask questions, I'll go deeper, but sometimes they're encouraging. Just to encourage us, and we are able to relate. I don't know, some of you have done therapy. What kind of therapy you do? Massage? Occupational therapy. Okay. But yes, the church needs, it needs this therapy. Many moons ago, which is good, missionary come, they baptize, and then they leave. There's a sustaining factor that needs to be taught. How do you sustain the church moving forward? And especially in the Caribbean, we don't have a lot of elders, and deacons to watch out for the souls of the Christian and watch what is happening. So the minister, he burns out because he has to be doing all the shepherding, the preaching, and sometimes the going deeper in the Word of God is somewhat, he's unable to do that because he's doing, and this, I'm speaking from experience, he's doing so many different things. And just like a child, the church needs nurturing, especially when they are new, when they come into faith. You need nurturing, you need the shepherding, the elders to be there, watching out, because why you need to be watching out? The devil is like one, a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And so the preacher has to be going into the word, and he has to be the deacon, the shepherd, and all that, and he burns out really quickly. And that's one of the experiences that I had in the Caribbean. So Brother Rob, you ready to be a shepherd? Tommy, you ready to be a shepherd? You gotta have the desire, so let me know. Alright, thank you for your time. Any question? Any comment? Well, you know you guys doing that job, right? With other people doing it, okay? Alright, God bless.